All right, guys, we're in the G80 M3 now. It's a manual, non-compact, Sport Plus for the engine, Sport Plus for the chassis, Sport for the steering, and Sport for the brake. Right now, just to feel the car out, we got the traction control on. It's in MDM mode. The main thing we're actually trying to feel is the shifter. We're going to be doing a poly rear shifter bushing, as well as some front control arm monoballs from Dinan. So coming up to our first stop here, let's see. Double pump the brakes. Yeah, it's a little slow. There's definitely some lag time, delay between when you press the pedal hard and when the car actually starts to bite the ground. And that's all the deflection in the suspension happening as the tension in the brakes binds up. Shifter feels okay, first to second, a little notchy. Third gear, much better. Take a little pull. Not bad, not bad. Let's get a first, second shift. Yeah, second's a little slow and hard to get into. Car definitely, yeah, man, you notice it right there when you go left, right real hard. There's a delayed response from the left back to the right, especially when you do it quick. It felt like maybe, you know, I don't know, a quarter of a second lag, a tenth of a second, to where you turn in and then the weight of the car transitions, the bushings deflect, everything, all the suspension tensions up in the correct way, and then the car actually reacts. All right, guys, we're gonna rip this right turn, see how the car feels. Yeah, it's a little laggy. We're gonna rip a quick U-turn here, see how she feels, brake hard. Turn in, not bad, not bad. A little slow to build power. These cars are very, very plush. All right, guys, I mean, I think that will complete our test drive. All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and remove this forward center plastic under tray to give us a better look at this forward control arm and the factory bushing, so we can give you a better shot at what we are doing. All right, guys, to pull this forward under tray, you have to pull this front trim piece that kind of supports it along the front side here. So go ahead and pull that. It's all 10mm plastic screws, so we'll go ahead and put that to the side. Now our forward panel should come out. So not only do you have to pull that plastic piece, any bolts going through the bumper also need to be pulled. Now we should be able to get this plastic trim piece out. There it is. All right, guys, so we actually ended up having to remove this lower corner plastic trim piece as well, just to gain access to the monoball. And by the looks of it, actually, this is going to be much more of a pain in the butt than I was originally anticipating, because the bolt for the front bushing actually runs straight into the frame here for the front bumper. All right, guys, so once you remove your corner panel, we're going to try to gain access to our bolt here. It's an E14 head Torx bolt that runs like this through our forward lower control arm bushing. On like the F8X and E9X platform, they're actually quite a bit easier to get to. On this, there are two 13mm bolts that look like this, running horizontally to the car, and they run right through these two holes. This is the forward, you know, it's in multiple sections, but this is like the forward bumper radiator support. These two bolts go through these holes like that. We've removed those, and we've used a pry bar to gain some extra access between the two pieces. It's a little bit of a stretch, but it's better than taking apart your whole bumper or like your radiator. The radiator supports are attached to this intermediate piece. We could take this intermediate piece out, but it would really be a pain. I did loosen up. There's two bolts here that are just behind this bracket, two 15mm bolts that I did loosen up just to give a little bit more wiggle room out of this, because it does allow this piece to twist just slightly. You'll have to do that, otherwise the bolt will run into the head here on this plane there. So we've gone ahead and removed that bolt, which you'll see this bushing will just fall right out, as well as a 21mm nut over here that we've just impacted off. Very easy, so we'll go ahead and pull that. Once all that is done, you can go ahead and just tip the arm up and slip it out like that. If you can see here, this is just a rubber bushing. This is a factory M bushing. It's stiffer than your generic, 340 or 328 bushing, but still nonetheless, it's rubber. When you hit the brakes or you make a turn, this thing twists and deflects forward and backwards, which that amount of time for it to bind in the bushing is a delayed, it relates to a delayed response in your braking feel, in the pedal, and in the steering when turning in. So we're gonna go ahead and get those changed out for the Dinan Monoballs, and we'll give you a look at that once we do that and a process of how we did it. All right, guys, we have our Dinan Monoball here. You can see it's got this nice machined aluminum casing that the factory Lemforder ball joint is resting in. You can see inside of there, there's a circlip actually holding the Lemforder ball joint or uniball, whatever you want to call it, sealed uniball in the casing here. This is actually like a ball joint out of like a rear control arm from like an F8X or G8X car. Even the E9X uses them. We use these to convert other cars, rubber bushings to monoball across various platforms. Very versatile ball joint or monoball. That's what that is. And then we've got this nice slug, aluminum slug that presses into the arm. It also has these threads machined into the side, where we have these super nice machined rings and some provided 609 Loctite to lock everything down. There's also some offset spacers here, which make sure the distance between the subframe and the uniball is correct. And then we have a tool here to tighten everything down. So that's what comes with the Dinan Monoballs. There are some other brands out there like Turner that I do like. I almost prefer them over these Dinan ones, but nonetheless, they all do the same thing. Here we have a poly rear bushing shifter from RE. This is a very nice, high quality piece. Once again, billet aluminum, machined to the highest standards. It's also been anodized in a gray and has their logo laser etched in it. Very nice piece. 2 bolts to bolt it in, very easy. Some nice rubber bushings, very stiff. Should improve the shifting feel a lot. Quick look at the factory bushing here. Nothing we haven't seen before, just a rubber bushing. Very stiff, can't move it by hand, but under the weight of the car, 3,000 pounds plus, and the forces of braking and turning, that bushing sure deflects and shifts a lot. So these monoballs will keep everything laterally and horizontally located, should provide a smoother suspension feel due to there being zero drag in the monoball, where the bushing actually does create some drag or resistance to suspension movement. So not only is it a better feel, it moves more freely and allows the shock to do its job better. So let's go ahead and get these parts installed in the lower control arms and get the shifter bushing on and get the car back on the road and take you for a spin. All right, guys, here we have the control arm with the bushing pressed out. Let's take a quick look at the factory bushing. It's got the split here. It's actually larger than the hole and has to be pressed in. If I try to drop it in now, it won't go in. Most of the other uniballs on the market actually have to be pressed in the way that that had to be pressed out. These Dinan ones, for whatever reason, do not. What they expect you to do is clean out the bore of the control arm real good with some, acetone or carb cleaner and some Scotch-Brite, which we will do here shortly. Then you apply a generous amount of Loctite around the body of this. You could even maybe spread a little in here. Throw it in here. There is a side with a slight chamfer. If you guys can see right there, there's a slight chamfer. If we flip it over, you will see that it's a square cut edge. There's no beveled edge. And so that side with the slight bevel is the side that you'll drop the uniball in from. Then we'll go ahead and put a little Loctite on our rings and torque these down with the tool to 110 foot-pounds. So we're gonna go ahead and do that right now. I just wanted to show you guys real quick how I press these out. So I used a cup, right? You need a cavity for this bushing to get pressed out of here and end up in. So We used this cup from my bearing tool to provide enough space to be able to push the bearing through the arm like that. And then I used a little, wheel bearing, or this is a seal and race driver kit. I just found the right size that was just big enough for the arm and used that to press it through, and had a press pushing from above. So super easy. Those of you that don't have a press, you maybe use a big vise or hammer. Hammer does work. It's a little bit more abusive. Vise or press is best. So we're going to go ahead and get these tightened up to 110 foot-pounds and get the shifter in and the arms in and get this bad boy on the road. So let's go. You guys can see how dirty the inside of this control arm is, so make sure to wipe it out real good. About 2 or 3 passes with the carb cleaner and a nice clean rag should be enough. All right, we're looking good. It looks nice and clean. We'll give that 2 seconds to dry up. We'll do the same thing. Do the same thing with our Uniball. It looks clean, but I did drop it in the arm, and the arm was dirty, so let's just make sure the Uniball is nice and clean. Clean that up. Blow dry it. Make sure it's clean and dry. It is. The moisture is gone. We'll go ahead and apply a generous amount of Loctite to this bad boy. There's a little bit left over from the first bottle. We will go ahead and set that down there somewhere clean. Open the new bottle. Spread some more Loctite on this bad boy. Can apply a generous amount here. I ended up spinning it around with my hands, and then I took the excess that was on my fingers and I rubbed it around on the inside of the control arm. You can also take a little bit extra if you want and squirt a dab in there and just lather that around just to help make sure there's a healthy coating of Loctite. We're going to drop it in from the bevel side. So drop that bad boy in. We're going to set her down so it doesn't fall out. We're going to take this Loctite and our ring over here, pick up our ring. So we're going to go ahead and put a little bit in the threads here for our ring on there. We got it to thread. So once you lock it down pretty good, it's basically tight. Now you're going to need something to hold the arm so you can torque it. I'm going to use my bench vise here. Get it locked up nice on the Uniball section. We've got our 1/2 inch torque wrench, which I don't think that it really matters, but I like to use the tool at 90 so you're getting leverage on this around an axis instead of straight on like that. I don't think it makes a difference. I tried it in both positions and it seemed to get the same torque, but we've got it set to 110 foot-pounds. We're going to go ahead and torque this Uniball lock nut. So you can see it shifting here. There's that. Try it again. Yeah, and it seems to be very tight and locked in. Happy with that. That's how it's done. Now we can go ahead and bolt these control arms back up into the G8X chassis with our brand new Dinan Monoballs. Let's get after it. All right, guys, here we have the Dinan Monoballs installed and torqued and Loctited into the front tension arms. That's what it looks like. One side has the nut, the other side is just the face. Basically the same on both sides. The main thing is that you put it in from the chamfered side. I don't know that it would really matter, but that's what they recommend. So we're doing it per their instructions, but let's go ahead and get these bad boys bolted back onto the car. All right, guys, so I've gone ahead and inserted the arm with the spacers. I forgot to mention you got to put your spacers on the Uniball. So I've gone ahead and inserted it in its place. So we're going to line up the hole on this Monoball side, as well as I'm going to have Ben pry on the front section for me so that I can go ahead and slip the bolt in. And then we'll get it torqued. Let's go ahead and do that. All right guys, so we wrapped up the install of the monoball conversion. The outer 21 millimeter nut is 175 Newton meters for the torque, and for the E14 bolt that goes through the monoball, it's a two-step torque, so it's a 74 foot-pounds or 100 Newton meters and 90 degrees angle torque. So we've gone ahead and done that. We also checked the other bolts on the other lower control arm and the tie rod and found them to actually be quite loose. So when you're in here doing this to your car, it's kind of a good idea to sometimes just nut and bolt and check everything. So we checked everything from the sway bar end links to the pinch bolt and just made sure stuff felt tight. Now that we're done with that, we're gonna go ahead and put all our plastic panels back in and wrap this car up and move on to the shifter. So let's go ahead and do that. All right guys, this is what it looks like with all the panels back in it. The side ones here, the center one, this forward trim piece, and the front lip reinstalled. So let's go ahead and move on to the shifter. All right guys, so we're about to install this RE poly shifter bushing, rear shifter bushing. So let me show you where that is. There's this heat shield that's kind of in the way, so I've gone ahead and bent that just slightly down out of the way. The shifter is up here, so you guys can see that. It's got one E10 bolt per side. So we're gonna go ahead and remove that and put this bad boy up in there like that. So just give you a good look at it. Hopefully you guys can see that now. We're gonna go ahead and use something like this E10 on a wobble to get up in there and break these bolts loose. We're gonna pull both these bolts off and just pull the bushing rearward towards the rear of the car and then slip the new one on. All right guys, so here's a quick close-up shot of the difference of the two side by side. So if I stack these together and just show you the play, the factory one is super soft and rubbery. This one I can't deflect really at all. You can see the bushing is actually very small. It's almost probably halfway back, just about in this section only. The forward half is just kind of this little soft rubbery sleeve that they have here. It's not even really a bushing, where you can see the difference in design in the RE one. Other than that, about the same. You got some beveled corners, and it's a billet construction versus cast. But yeah, let's go ahead and get this bad boy on the car. Guys, so we're gonna go ahead and fish this up in there. It's a little difficult. Try not to drop it. Kind of slip on one, pivot it, slip it on the other, and then it should slide on very nice. We've slid it on, which slide it up to where the holes line up, and there it is. So we'll go ahead and put the bolts in it. So we're just gonna pull it all the way forward on both sides and make sure that it's as far forward as it can be. We're gonna lock that in. All right, so after torquing those two E10 bolts, that is gonna be the last step of the install on the shifter. The final thing to do is just slightly bend this back. It wasn't very much, it was just something like that. All right guys, so let's go ahead, drop the car down. We still gotta torque the front wheels and take this thing for a test drive and give you guys our honest feedback. All right guys, almost immediately I can tell the shifting does feel quite a bit smoother. It could be the fact that maybe the weight of that shifter is now more centered. Not totally sure. It just seems like the gears are going in ever so slightly easier. The main gear of concern is always second gear in BMWs, which that third to second downshift felt really nice. Going into first right there was nice and smooth. It's definitely, I don't know that I'd say it's 100% improved. There was definitely some notchiness. We're gonna get some more shifts to give you guys some real good feedback. I do notice though the steering is definitely way more sensitive. Brakes, yeah, way less delay in the brakes. It seemed like very smooth. I didn't feel any jerking of the car when we came to a stop there. We'll give it a good brake down here, down the road. Slam them on good and just see how it feels. Yeah, dude, the shifter it's a pretty big improvement actually, surprisingly. All right, I'm gonna slam on the brakes. Oh yeah, much better feel. The tires lock up quicker. You can tell that the time to biting the ground, the time that it takes for the tire to fully bite the ground and start really kicking on the ABS is shorter, which is due to that lack of delay and that bushing causing the forces to go through the bushing, deflect, and then up into the chassis. Oh yeah, the car is way snappier on the turns. Still feel the weight of the car, I'll tell you what. These cars are heavy, and you feel it with the body roll. Some sway bars or some coilovers would really do this thing a solid. Maybe those CSL front knuckles, adding a little more camber in the front end might kind of slow down the steering a little bit and give us a little bit more kind of, what's the right word? I don't want to say stability, but give us some more confidence up front, because it feels a little floaty, feels a little light and quick to get understeer, which is something I've noticed in these chassis. If you don't power over, if you don't get on the gas real hard or kick the clutch, the front end wants to push. Touching the brakes on and off quicker, the response is quicker. Definitely made a pretty big change to the car. I actually think the shifter now, originally I was thinking the Monoball was going to be a much bigger improvement or something that kind of made me happy. The shifter actually right now is quite a big improvement. We're going to get a good first, second gear shift here. We'll see if I really feel any more of that notchiness, but I'm more excited actually about the shifter bushing than I am about the Monoballs currently. Yeah, first second sucks. First second still sucks, but it could be worse. Could be worse. Honestly, I think these transmissions shift better than the F8X platform. The F8X M2, 3, and 4 just shift terribly, at least first, second. Even some of the other gears, they don't feel the most engaging, feel very rubbery, and it could be due to him doing the forward bushings, but I definitely still think you know, it's a combination of the weight of the car and the steering just being too light. Just needs to be a little bit more weighted. Would feel a lot better, maybe stickier tire, wider tire, maybe a little more camber. Could definitely kind of make this front end feel better, give you more feedback. But yeah, it's overall a nice mod. I think, you know, I would say the braking feel is drastically improved. The steering feel is somewhat improved. Definitely less slop in the steering wheel, more responsive, but it almost made the steering feel more light, and that's probably due to the fact that there's less deflection, right? The wheels can do what they need to do quicker and easier, and so that's relating to just a sharper or quicker steering feel. Every gear but second gear feels great with the shifter. Second gear is just a little notchy. I don't know what it is about second gear, they just can't seem to get it right. Give it one more good brakes down at the bottom of the hill. Yeah, it's a much sharper come on of the brakes, and the ABS system definitely feels a lot better on the brakes. And I think the bumps even maybe feel a little better. The car just feels a little bit more planted through the bumps. Nice little turn here with a bump mid turn. Yeah, the car feels way more planted for sure. And I'm sure, you know, if we were to get this in some twisties mid turn, I'm sure there's going to be a huge improvement. Right here going straight on the road, it's actually very hard to feel. When you're going, you know, in the twisties, left and right again, and you're really getting that transfer of the energy, that's where you'll probably feel these Monoballs the most. But yeah, that's going to be it for our test drive. The customer is waiting for his car back, so we're not going to take too long, but always a pleasure to work on these G80s, and we love making these videos for you guys. So hopefully you'll hit that subscribe button and make sure to comment down below what you thought about the Dinan Monoballs and the shifter bushing. Anyways, peace out, guys.